Well, good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Lunch Update, our program that helps you stay curious, connected, and informed, all live and in real time. This conversation, like all Lunch Update programs, are made possible by our presenting sponsor, Perkins Coie, with an additional thank you to our Accelerate sponsors, Baker Tilly and Easy Office Products. Today's program will feature a conversation with Mark Papko, who became Executive Director of Dane County Regional Airport earlier this year. But first, a few chamber updates. Next week, Tuesday, December 16th, we'll host our last event of the year, an advocacy in the AM called the Mayoral Panel. We'll have 7 mayors from Dane County cities who will come together for a panel to discuss strategies for tackling our region's most critical issues, from infrastructure, housing, to talent and economic development. You can register at the link that is now in the chat, or you can also go to our website, madisonbiz.com, where this, like all lunch updates, will be posted after they get processed. Registration is nearly full capacity, so highly suggest you arrive early to claim a good seat in the room. Not too early also to save the date for our next Chamber 101, which happens on Monday, January 26th. This event is designed for new chamber members, but also longtime members who are looking for a refresher, or prospective members who want to learn more about the chamber's work benefits your business directly. You'll hear from chamber staff about our brand, economy, and advocacy work, as well as you'll have time to network with staff and fellow members, and you'll find the link in the chat. You can register there, or again by going to our website at madisonbiz.com. And now for our guest. Mark Papko was appointed Executive Director of the Dane County Regional Airport this past June. Before that, he worked in operations at the San Jose International Airport, Chicago O'Hare, and most recently as the Director of Operations and Projects at the Duluth Airport, where he oversaw $200 million for an improvement plan and led environmental compliance efforts that related to stormwater and PFAS mitigation. Mark, welcome to Lunch Update.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I'm excited to have the conversation.
Yeah, same. I hear you're joining us from Dallas.
I am. I am not in Madison today, so we are in Dallas.
If you look over the horizon, it looks like it's 70 degrees here.
Yeah, it is 70 in Dallas, so I'm flattered. But no, I'll be back a little bit later tonight. So
Great. So I read your bio to the audience. You started your current position this summer, but deep in your bio is a history that maybe most people don't know. I certainly didn't know until read your full bio. But your time and experience with our airport actually goes back to 2013. So talk about that. How is it that you were previously linked to Dane County Regional Airport?
yeah, coming back to Madison was really a homecoming for me in a sense. 2013, I actually started as an intern with the airport, so I was gracious enough to get that opportunity, and I spent over 6 months with the airport before other opportunities took me to some of the places that you mentioned out on the West Coast. At the time, my wife and I were young and wanted to go see the world and go experience the different varieties that having experience at different airports can get you. And it's kind of been that full circle moment. So it was fun to be an intern and then come back nearly close to 13, 14 years later.
I heard somewhere, maybe you said this to me in passing, that you always wanted a career in airport leadership and in operations. What inspires someone to choose that as a career?
Yeah, it's everybody that jokes in the industry, it's aviation is a bug, and once you get bit by it, you're always going to kind of have that itch. So most airport professionals in the industry start off as failed pilots. So I actually started off school. I went to my undergrad in St. Cloud State University. I started flying, and after about a year in, it was economic downturn, and it wasn't the greatest flying opportunities. My flight instructor was a laid off United Airlines pilot with like 5,000 hours. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe management and airports, they seem pretty consistent. So I made the switch from flying to airports and never looked back. So I've been really extremely blessed to have the opportunities and the experiences that I have at all the different airports. It truly has led me to have that opportunity to lead Madison and Dane County Regional Airport that I'm forever grateful for.
My guess is most people on the broadcast today, myself included, aren't really familiar with the inner workings of an airport. I mean, like, we show up, we expect it to work, we expect to, come in the front door, check in, have our luggage, go through security, have an experience in the terminal, get on a plane, and leave. But when you think about your role, I
Mhm.
walk by the office. It says executive offices each time I'm headed to a flight. What's going on in those offices? What does your typical day look like?
Yeah. When I think I know what my day is going to look like, I just wait 10 minutes because aviation is just an ever dynamic industry. And I will say, working with County Executive Agard and underneath her leadership and her strategic direction has been absolutely astonishing. I'm super excited to be on County Executive Agard's team, and I look forward to all the great things to match up what the airport can do to align with the county's larger strategic direction. So it's been extremely welcoming as I embrace a new position to have the sound leadership of Executive Agard has been tremendous. In regards to what I do on a daily basis, it truly is an ever dynamic industry. We are fortunate enough to have 100.5 FTEs at the airport that specifically work for the county. And the larger, broader network is actually much broader than that. And as much as we connect people to places, we are very much an economic driver in the community. We just did a study, and it's finalized in its draft form, and we'll be looking to the new year to announce that economic impact of what does the airport bring to the community. So, although we are an airport, we're much more than that from an economic driver standpoint. And it's been a number of years since we've updated that, and I'm excited to share that figure publicly for the first time in the new year. But really, the reality is that we are airports are big landlords. We truly are. We maintain critical infrastructure that other entities are able to utilize and leverage. It's an interesting process. People always joke, "Oh, you're an airport, you must get free flights," and it's very much not that. We are facilitators of the needs of the airlines, of the rental cars, of the concessionaires, of the parking companies. All those different things are there to provide services, and we're kind of the landlord that helps manage all of it and keep it all flowing. Our critical infrastructure is obviously has to be maintained at a certain level. It's not like cities and streets that can maybe have snow contaminants pile up. Obviously, the operation that we have is extremely sensitive. So the tools that we're able to use to make sure that our job is uniquely different. So the operation kind of oversees it all. And like I said, one day we may be talking about an offsite land lease, and the other day we're sitting in Dallas having airline meetings. So it's a very unique opportunity. It's something that I truly love is diversity in what I do, and it's something I'm extremely proud of.
All right, so you don't get free flights, you can't get me diamond status.
I
But
wish. I wish.
what are the things that for people who don't understand the role, what are the things that you can do? Like what are what are the levers that you have to pull?
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. So as much as I wish a new airline would start tomorrow, or we could just fly to a new destination, those are really built over time in partnership with the airlines as we align a lot of data analytics and forward looking. It's astonishing the amount of information that we can receive. So it's our job to really combine all that data and hopefully present it to the airline in a partnering manner to present them the opportunities really and the forethought of where the future is growing. So, one of my main jobs is making sure that the airlines are understanding of what's going on here. I typically try to bring a community advocate with us on one of these events to give them the flavor of the town. So I know the chamber has joined us on some airline meetings. Downtown Madison has joined us on some meetings. So bringing that flavor of what's happening in the community and what's the forward-looking needs is truly the stuff that's hard to quantify, right? It's that qualitative data that's hard to see. So that's some of the stuff that we can try to manipulate and do. The other thing is, as we look forward, we currently out on the street right now, we have a request for qualifications for an airport master plan. The last time we have done an airport master plan was 1993. You don't want to know where I was in 1993. That's probably not a question that should be answered, but that master plan will be a forward looking, who do we want to be when we grow up? What do we need from the airport in the next 10 to 15 years? How do we invest in the capital infrastructure? And what does that infrastructure look like to meet the demand of the airlines? So a lot of what we're trying to do is making sure that we have that development and that long-term need met. It will be about a 2-year process to go through that airport master plan because it's fully in depth. there's a lot of different puzzle pieces that are going on in an airport. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that they make a beautiful picture, right? And it's not just um, something that's just a piece of concrete in the middle of anywhere. So we need to make sure all those different entities and those puzzle pieces all fit. And then we invite really the community, the business leaders, the airlines, the stakeholders, the users. We invite all of them to be a part of that plan. It's not a plan that we compose in a silo. And that opportunity will hopefully spit out something that everybody can get behind. It talks about all of the environmental stewardship that we trying to do with the noise plan, the environmental awareness, and making sure that everything we're doing is in a responsible manner. So
So I want to come back to sort of the future of the airport, but I'm curious a little bit about your perspective on the past too. I won't go all the way back to '93, but
yeah,
you come back a decade later after being an intern. You've gone to similar size cities, much larger cities, smaller cities, different responsibilities in each of those communities. As you came back, and I guess for you and your family,
yeah.
what about Madison and the airport has changed over the last decade? Like, what were the most glaring changes that you noticed in the community, but also in the airport?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I'll answer that question personally first, right? When I left here, I didn't have two kids, so we're bringing back two kids, and my wife is actually from the greater Madison area, so it truly was a homecoming. What's changed is I'm getting used to hanging out with the in-laws a lot more, right? But that's they are great people and all fun. But as far as the airport side of things. Really, it's a story of growth. Back from when we see the passenger counts in 2012, 2013, it was around that 1.5, 1.6 million passenger counts. This year in 2025, we're going to break our all-time high record. We're pushing 2.4 million passengers through our facility. That's a significant amount of growth in a short duration of time. And with that growth has come changes in our terminal. I mean, the South Terminal was a great economic driver in the community. It was an $80 million investment into the infrastructure that we have there, provides so many great assets to the flying public. And hopefully many of the users that are on the call have or will be taking advantage of some of those opportunities. So that's a big thing. Environmental stewardship has been a big change and a big focus as we become more knowledgeable as a community, as a country, and the regulatory body has caught up as well. How do we deal with things like noise mitigation, or how do we deal with things like PFAS mitigation in an airport? So all those things are changing, and we need to make sure that we're adapting our policies and procedures to make sure that they're accompanying in the best practices manner. So lots of things have changed, and I'm excited to beginning to continue to work through those, especially as we go through the master planning process. Make sure some of those changes are continued forward.
When you looked at the job and decided to put your name in, what were some of the challenges and opportunities that you saw? And now that you're in it and leading it, are those real? Are there different ones that now you see that maybe you had a different mindset coming into it? But curious about when you applied for it, what were you thinking you were going to walk into, and were you right, or have you learned something new since you've been here?
Yeah, no, having previous history here at the airport helped me kind of take a little bit of the shroud of unfamiliarness or the cloak over it. So I had an idea of what was walking into. However, I was blown away by the community support and really the demand and the growth that we have. So that was one thing that I didn't expect to see. Airports can be complementary to a community, or they can be sometimes an adversary, and it truly was surprising to me the amount of community support, the amount of business leaders and support around the business community that leverage that as an asset and really see it as not only the airport but an economic driver that supports jobs within the community. So that side of it, there's also things where you didn't realize that's how that was or what that agreement does. So I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the growth of it. I'm excited to see some of the investment in the infrastructure that we're going to see over the next decade. My biggest struggle is going to be making sure that our investment in infrastructure keeps up with the demand and doesn't get behind it. I want to make sure that we're supporting it. Spring break 2025, we sent out a message that says where our parking lots are full, right? We never want to do that to any of our customers. We want to make sure that when they need the services, that we're ready to provide them, and we have the capacity to do that. So doing that while doing a strategic planning document is going to be difficult, but making sure that we capitalize on those investments. And then the other thing is just bringing in as much outside state and federal dollars to support those. We acknowledge that anytime we can leverage a federal grant to help us with the majority of what we do, that's real impact to our community. That's real dollars. That's contractors and consultants that are working and they're eating at our restaurants. They're staying in our hotels. They become part of the community, and making sure that that investment in infrastructure continues to roll over within the community.
I mean, you mentioned having the blessing of having in-laws that can watch the kids now, but how are the kids settling in? I was going to ask you
Yeah,
how your wife is settling, but it sounds like
yeah,
it's coming home for her. So I
yeah,
more about how are you
yeah.
selling, but
Yeah.
anything surprise you with the relocation with the family? Good, bad?
No, it's I mean, anytime you relocate kids, there's always that extra challenge. As a native Canadian, I got dubbed the hockey coach, so I'm inherently the community's hockey coach, and my son and daughter are well vested into coaching, and my wife coaches as well. So we settled in pretty quick, and we really try to get involved in the community, whether it's be on local boards or just volunteering opportunities or things just like participating in our kids' lives in the sports. But the community has been fantastic so far. All good things to say.
All right, well, let's get into the tough questions now.
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
All
let's
right,
hear it.
so to
You've
get
been
into
easy
some of
on me.
the specific documents or the topics, I mean, government shutdown coming out of it certainly was a major disruptor for airports around the country. We lived it through the news, and some of us experienced it in just some of the travel challenges. But one thing I noticed was that while my peers and colleagues and friends around the country seemed to be significantly impacted, my travels during that time period didn't seem to have any significant disruption. Nothing that was atypical. I'll say it that way.
Hmm.
What was
Yep.
the secret to the success locally? How did that transpire that we didn't really feel the same level of impact that other places did?
Yeah. Having a federal government shutdown in the first 6 months of my starting was not on my bingo card for this year. However, I think what truly made the difference locally was what I was talking about earlier when I said I was absolutely blown away by the community support for the airport. Um, the communities in the airports that struggle the most didn't have that support to take care of their federal employees. The amount of outpouring of support that I saw from business leaders, from the community, from just the general public. Um, I'm not sure that the TSA workers are gonna, survive being on a 45-day pizza diet when they got lunches provided to them every single day. It was truly amazing to see the community support brought in for our federal partners that were still mandated to work. Because with that, they were up against some tough challenges. Missing several paychecks is not something that anybody plans for. So between the controllers and the TSA workers, making sure that those entities were taken care of, and most importantly, the people behind those entities were taken care of. Was the secret sauce, and that was done with folks on the phone that were able to participate in that, whether it was donating pizza or sending in gift cards for the employees. I mean, that's what made the difference, because without those employees, you would have saw longer lines at TSA. You would have saw reductions in flight capacity and ability to control aircraft. So, that open communication, open collaboration about here's the needs of the airport and the workers, and really the community answering the call was I think really that secret sauce. And not every community was as successful as we were to manage that. So I cannot thank and express the gratitude enough. Our local TSA management, local FAA controller management was fantastic to work for, and they were great partners throughout it all.
Yeah, it's pretty heartening to go through the airport and see people going out of their way to acknowledge and thank the TSA workers for being there, and certainly saw in a tough time smiles got brought to people's faces of,
Yeah,
hey, I'm seen, I'm recognized, I'm valued for what I do to
absolutely.
protect this country. So another tougher question, your noise has been a subject before your time, and every airport deals with this. I haven't encountered a single airport where somebody didn't build a house somewhere near an existing airport and is
Yep.
frustrated by the noise that comes from it, and a lot of misunderstanding around the science of noise. And I have spent too much time trying to understand how noise is measured. Um, but there is a noise mitigation plan that was recently updated as part of FAA process. I think it's voluntary. But can you give us the latest on that plan and sort of what you're working on when it comes to noise mitigation?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first got here, obviously you do kind of a horizon check on where everything's at, and evaluating where the noise compatibility program was at was one of those things that got evaluated. I was pretty quick to make the assessment that I didn't feel like it met my standards, that what I would require to be successful in the community. And a lot of that was just reading past commentary and speaking with folks in and around the community. So I pulled it back as a voluntary process, retooled it, and really just added additional offerings that help support the community. It did that in not a silo. I re-engaged the public process, went and had multiple open houses, and then did a final public hearing, all with the goal to hopefully receive some federal grant support in the following year. So I was proud to say that we resubmitted it. We did that, and we met our initial timelines. So that process is hitting the 180-day Federal Register notice. So it's starting to go through that process now. In order for us to receive any type of mitigation support from the FAA, it has to get through that process, and we're hopeful to take advantage of that opportunity when it comes forward. The federal grant year will come through in the August, September, October timeframe next year. So everything we did was targeting to make sure that we try to hit that timeline, and it really was an opportunity for how can we get support to the community, acknowledging that noise is impactful to the residents that are around the community that are affected by it. I will say that the 115th Fighter Wing has been nothing but super successful in their partnership with us. They're an outstanding community partner, and have done everything that we've asked them as far as providing us information or coming to the table, and being a part of those solutions that happen. So I'm forever grateful for that partnership. It's one that really is not only an economic driver in community, but they do a lot of good things. You know, they support state missions. They are teammates of kids on soccer teams and hockey teams all around the community, and they do a great job for us. So making sure that they're a part of it and part of that support is key to the success of it. So and I can say that about multiple entities, but obviously the 115th being one of the we'll call it noisier tenants. We've appreciated having a good working relationship with them.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. I was going to ask you about the
Yeah, oh yeah.
relationship there. The my experience in talking to my peers around the country, I'm shocked by how many people don't have a relationship with air bases, military installations in their communities. And I just thought this was the norm, right? And you wanted, we obviously saw the finalists as when they were publicly announced. For the role that you're in, you excited us the most. I mean, if we could have had it, we didn't have a say, but if we could have had a pick,
Yeah.
you would have been the one, largely because you were coming from Duluth, and you had experiences with F-16s in Duluth, and so you knew
Hmm.
what it was like to work with an air wing. Um, but I'm glad to hear you say what you said, which is that,
Yeah.
I think it's easy to forget that, like during the pandemic, if you wanted, we were at 98% vaccination pretty quickly because we had a drive-through vaccination clinic that was run by the wing and the guard.
Hmm.
We had testing before almost anybody else in the country had robust testing because we had drive-through at the Alliant Energy Center. You come through, get a swab in your nose. There they were in their hazmat
Yeah.
suits, and so easy to forget the value of having them. And so I'm glad to hear you say that the relationship continues with you. That certainly we have experienced with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Relationships for me have always been a point of opportunity and strength. Really, it's how can we partner with somebody to work together on an issue, and knowing that we're sitting on the same side of the table, and not just the 115th, any partner around the community is how do we get through together and work through this issue instead of working against each other. So aligning yourself and making sure that you have open, honest communication, acknowledge differences and opinions, and collaboratively work together towards solving an issue is the best way for success in the end.
yeah. Final tough question. And then we'll get into some other questions. Won't be as tough, but
Yeah.
um, aside from noise, the other big you know conversation and complaint is PFAS, PFOA, or what people might call sort of colloquially the forever chemicals. Um, Talk to us a little bit about the mitigation of those chemicals at Truax and sort of how you view the airport's role and the community's role, and what can we expect from a cleanup perspective over the coming years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. PFAS is another difficult conversation. I will say it's not one that's just unique to Madison. This is something that every airport around the country is working to solve. And if they aren't, that's just because they haven't looked at it yet. The firefighting foam that was the main contributor to a lot of the PFAS concerns in and around airports was mandated of use by the FAA for decades. So the fact that this is something that the whole country is trying to solve is important to note that it's not just Madison. However, I will say that it was encouraging to come to Madison and hear about some of the great things that are happening here. We're one of the first airports to conduct a bioremediation test site. We'll have some news on that here in the coming months as we start to receive data. So we did some experimental, basically bio injections into the soil using naturally occurring bacteria to try to mitigate and break down some of that PFAS, which is an extremely complicated process and chemical to work through. But we're happily working with a local company to do that. And again, we're the first airport in the country to work through that. So we're just starting to see 3 and 6 month test results. So as we get more of those test results, we're able to share how is that progressing, and knowing that we're the first to work through this. There's some you're not doing it without taking data, learning, adjusting your approach, and keeping on attacking. But what we're seeing there is extremely positive, which is something that you don't hear commonly when it comes to PFAS mitigation. Everybody's still in the how do we deal with it phase. So some of the stuff that we're seeing out of the early signs of the testing results is extremely encouraging, and I'm going to be super excited to share that with the community when we get a little bit more concrete information that what we're doing is progressing in the right direction. But I will say that the attention is there. Part of the master plan is going to identify how can we make sure that, from a broader sustainability standpoint, that we're growing in a sense that doesn't impact the environment in a negative way. And go back to the guards relationship. They've been a great partner with that, leveraging a lot of federal dollars and military assets to try to work through that as well. And they're a lot further ahead of than all of their peers as well. So we're tackling this problem together, as we have. Everybody has responsibility in making sure that we try to work through the mitigation of this, and we continue to stay on the leading edge of it with some of the implementation of the technologies that we've had. So I believe in the coming years, other airports and communities are going to be looking to what we did and trying to model everything that we did, and trying to find success. So I'm excited about it. I wish I could share some more concrete information here, but there's going to be some exciting stuff coming that shows that we're heading in the right direction.
So you alluded to, well, first let me say this summer was the airport's busiest summer travel season on record. So first, congrats.
Thank
Um,
you.
and you alluded to that the holiday season promises to be another record breaker. Can you put that in context for us? Like, how does that compare to other airports? What about other regions that are sort of similar size to us? What does record breaking mean? Put that in
Yeah.
context.
Yeah. So when I say record breaking, we use 2019 as our comparison year. Obviously, we know what happened in 2020 and after that. So the fact that we're looking at breaking records, it's a lot of it is comparing it to 2019. And data lags a little bit from the airline's perspective. So reporting is usually a couple months back, if not a quarter back. But if everything keeps on par, and the government shutdown was a little bit of a blip in capacity and available seats with the cancellations, we are still on track to beat 2019's passenger numbers records. And that would be the busiest all time for Madison and Dane County Regional Airport. And that's a milestone to hit and to continue as we push that envelope forward. It talks about the growth in the community, and it says that more now than ever, the community is using our airport. And we're able to see that from a lot of analytics and cell phone data and booking data. So if you're within the 85 zip codes of Madison, we're able to see where you book a ticket and which airports you're traveling at, what destinations you're going to, and we model our behavior and conversations with airlines after a lot of that data. So more now than ever, people are flying out of Madison. We have the data to back that up. Our leakage is a study that we try to do every year. and we could figure out how many people are driving down the highway to Milwaukee or O'Hare. And we're actually improving 3 points year over year, which is a significant amount of folks that would typically try to fly out of Milwaukee or O'Hare. They're choosing to fly out of Madison for a convenience of amenities, easy operations. Something that we've always been challenged with is sometimes those convenience and nicer options and ease of access comes with a little bit of a higher fare. And we're working to make sure that we keep those costs low to encourage airlines to continue to be competitive in their analysis and their ticket pricing. But we compare ourselves to a Milwaukee or O'Hare where they're not seeing the growth that we are. So right now we're on par for about 6% growth year over year, which will be the busiest from a passenger standpoint on record.
I want to come back to fares in a little bit, but I'm curious about. I just flew. It won't surprise you that I exclusively fly out of Dane County.
You have to say that today, but
Yeah, but it's true too. But I just got back from Asia, so flew through a lot of airports, domestically and internationally to get there and get back. But I'm always struck by just the cleanliness, the ease, the convenience, just how fast and how smoothly things go at our airport. Um, I left the day after Thanksgiving, so got out right before the snow, but certainly saw from Japan the news about Americans, the sort of snow in the Midwest. Um, how did the airport fare during that big travel season, particularly given record-breaking snowfall? I mean, how do you assess how we did during that
yeah.
5 day span?
Yeah. I will say kudos to our team, especially I'll say in relevance of the last two winters before this has been pretty easy on the snow teams. They haven't had to do a ton of snow removal with some pushing some record lows as far as snowfall total amounts. So to get essentially the first snowfall of the year, it be almost 12 inches. That's a lot all at once. And the airport fared very, very well. We never closed. We were always staying open. We were trying to meet all of our time. We'll say a lot of the times when you have those systems, those weather sense systems or events come through the area, it's a disruption in the system, and a lot of times those are compounding delays that happen. I will say that at the big airports, the O'Hares, the Minneapolises, the LaGuardias, the DFWs, when you have a system blip there, a lot of times their capacity is reduced, and we'll feel that downstream. So even though you might be delayed out of Madison, the majority of the time it's not actually caused by a delay within the operations of Madison. It's something downstream, like O'Hare went on a ground stop, or Minneapolis has a delayed launch or something like that. So the team did extremely well. I can't speak enough about the team and the airline partners and the de-icing teams. Everybody kind of answered the bell and knew that this storm was coming. So making sure that people are just patient really in those events, knowing that the weather events don't make anything easy, and aviation industry is operated at milliseconds of time. So any delay in that will just start compounding. But being patient, having flexible travel plans are all things that are extremely something to pay attention to.
All right. Well, you said no more tough. I said no more tough questions. You said pricing, so now you get another tough question. But
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take
pricing
it.
comes up a lot, particularly from non-business travelers, but businesses bring it up, and particularly small businesses. But it is a complaint we hear, and it certainly makes headlines whenever the top 100 airport pricing comes out. Can you sort of just talk about pricing when it comes to fares? What goes into that? What are the determining factors that sort of how we
Mhm.
get to prices, and what does that mean for us as an airport? And then
Mhm.
what would happen or what would it take for those prices to come down? So kind of a three-part question.
Yeah. First things I'll point out is the airport has no control over airfare pricing. I wish I did. I truly wish I did. But really, airfare pricing is totally set by the airlines and their cost metrics and how they do their operation. The one thing I will say is what can we do in our part to make sure that airline costs try to stay low is controlling airport costs. And we do that very, very well at Madison. Our costs are attempt to kept locally. It's important to note that we don't take any local tax dollars from the community. So we're a fully self-supporting enterprise department within the county, and main that is we operate off of the revenue that we make as a business and an entity, and none of that comes from the backs of local taxpayers. But keeping airport costs low, and essentially what that means is making sure that the costs that we pass on to the airlines are low and extremely competitive is a way for us to make sure that we keep our costs low so that they try to keep their costs low at within their operation in Madison, and that's reflected in ticket pricing. I will say, and I showed it during the budget presentation this year from the county. Our cost per employment to the airlines is extremely competitive and actually quite honestly lower than a lot of our peer airports. So making sure that we keep our costs low is a huge priority for us. The third part of your question is what can we do to try to drive costs down or try to drive ticket prices down. First things first is um, I'm not too hesitant to bring it up with the airline. So the meetings that I'm having here in Dallas, I bring those conversations up and I bring the charts up that show our fare pricing compared to other airports. So make sure that I bring that feedback from the community to them. But really, it's also a supply and demand conversation. So the more airlines that we get, the more routes that we get, the more seats that we get in the market. It's the supply and demand thing, and competition is great. So making sure that we try to have airlines that fly a diversity of routes. And sometimes in the high fare markets, there's enough room for two airlines, and that natural competition wants to bring and push airfare down. So I would say it seems counterintuitive, but the more we fly and use Madison, it's reflected in lower ticket prices because that encourages more capacity, which encourages more competition, and it really turns to an economics of things. But it's important that we make sure that we keep all those costs low, and that's what we really do in our part is try to do that, and encourage the airlines to do the same thing.
Something else that's on a lot of people's mind, particularly the business community, is expanding direct access. So some people call them nonstop, some people call it direct. But the chamber conducted a survey earlier this year and found that the support for adding direct flights continues to be at peak interest.
Mhm.
And it's on both coasts. It's destinations like San Francisco, Seattle, LA, Boston, even Houston. Some people say Vegas. We're skeptical that that's a business destination, but people have tried to make the argument that maybe it is. But so when we think about those direct flights, and we had a little bit more, we have got a good number, but we had more pre-pandemic. What are the current efforts underway to expand access to the airport?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a continuous game of trying to look at data analytics and figure out what the best case scenario is. And we encourage airlines to do the same thing. So a couple of those areas that you mentioned are on those opportunities list. San Francisco, Boston, continuous service to the West Coast is something that we acknowledge as a gap. We do a lot of flying to the East Coast and to the Southeast. So trying to make sure that we can maximize our westward connectivity is a huge priority for us. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and a lot of what things like I'm doing here in Dallas is a big component of that. I hope to have some new dots on maps here very soon, and airlines are continuously looking at the data and evaluating what new routes or what new cities to utilize in Madison. I will say it's if airlines could have it their way too, I think they would also be flying a lot more routes that they can. But some of the constraints within the aircraft deliveries are really holding them back. Airlines don't just have airplanes sitting there. If an airline's sitting, it's not making money. So they try to literally fly those things sun up to sundown, even flying through the day with red eyes. And that's the reality of it is that as a new aircraft deliveries come online, then you see that new opportunities start to exist. And with the aircraft deliveries, Boeing and Airbus have both had challenges, those being the primary two aircraft delivery methods or manufacturers. That's really the opportunity. So as those new opportunities come online, and a lot of their deliveries have quite honestly, been hindered in the last 5 years, not only with the pandemic, but just aircraft issues at large. Making sure that safety is the top priority that anybody wants to have as in regards to the aviation industry. We're making sure that as airlines get those aircraft deliveries, that they keep Madison front of mind for those new market opportunities. As an executive director of an airport, there's nothing more than I want than more dots on the map and more competition because it has so many other factors that we talked about through the last hour. And I'm excited to hopefully be doing that very shortly.
Let's just talk a little bit about so before we leave the subject, about the benefits of it. I mean, we certainly see connectivity, ease of access for business leaders. Um, I know when I've gone with your predecessors on those site visits, talk to airports, there is a lot of like, why can't you just fly through the hub? What's wrong with Chicago? What's wrong with Denver? What's wrong with Minneapolis or Detroit or Charlotte? Um, and I think we all know the answer to that delay and
Yeah.
to that extra
Yeah.
step. But I'm curious as how, as the executive at our airport, how do you view the benefit of adding more direct flights? Like, what's the
Yeah. The only commodity that we can't control is time, right? And making sure that we try to save people as much time with that direct is really the point of it, right? If we have enough flow through demand, so we have enough flow to San Francisco through Denver or Boston through O'Hare, eventually it makes enough sense to just fly that route directly. So and that saves people time, and honestly, it eliminates that vulnerability of a potential stop. Anytime you have a transition or a change in aircraft, right? There's opportunities there for things to not go as planned. So making sure that we try to evaluate that. And we acknowledge that that helps the business community, right? That it helps employee satisfaction and retention when they're not spending all day traveling and get to where they need to go first thing in the morning, do whatever they need to do, and potentially be back home to tuck the kids in at night. So it's an important aspect of what we do, and saving people time and resources is a top priority. So expanding those dots on the map is really the name of the game, and making sure that we can do that in a sustainable way. And that's the other thing, is not getting too far ahead of ourselves, because the last thing we want is an airline to come in, start a new route that doesn't make sense for them, and then eventually they either pull out as an airline entirely or remove that destination, because that's not good for anybody, and especially not the airlines and not the airport or our community. So making sure that what we do, one of the airlines equated it to, we're getting married, and we want to make sure that that's a long lasting one. So it's all those things kind of combined.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk a little bit about aspiration. So, numerous local leaders, including County Executive Agard, strongly support getting an international designation for the airport, both in the name change and then ultimately in some type of customs desk. What are you able to share about your view of that and the status of that effort?
Yeah, I alluded to the master plan earlier, and that's a big part of that is making sure that that international question gets answered within the master plan. There's multiple ways to answer that question. Does it land on the general aviation or the corporate side, or is it on the commercial side? Where does it go? How does it fit? Those facilities are easy to put in and just plop in the middle of the airport. They have some stringent requirements. So the master plan will really evaluate that path forward, and how do we go through the steps of that to be successful. Again, making sure that those investments in infrastructure are responsible ones, and ones that are backed by true demand, make sure that they are the right answer for it, and ones that can continue to grow beyond that. So we're not just answering the question in today's time, but also in the forward looking lifespan of that investment in infrastructure.
What can community leaders and business leaders do to support the efforts? I mean, I hear you in saying it'll be in the master plan, but what are the things that can be done for those that need this yesterday or would love to see this as a future opportunity for us as a region?
Yeah, continue to be an advocate, continue to reach out to us, just because community or business leaders around the community might say something. Make sure that information gets to the airport, and we take great information to these airline meetings. Like I said, they have access to the same data analytics that we do, but they really want to hear the qualitative stuff. So give us those stories, give us those things that help us make that, and then just continue to use our airport and use our asset, and really be that commitment to it, even though it may be at times a little bit more costly to do so. Airlines recognize that usage, and really future demand is predicated on the existing usage. So fly those existing routes, do those things now, and in due time, you'll see those opportunities continue to go forward as we can continue to grow as a community.
All right, final questions, because ironically, you've got to catch a flight.
I do.
But when it comes to navigating airports, what's your best travel tip?
Ooh, it's a good one. I've found that downloading the airlines apps have been extremely beneficial, because there's a lot of information that you can get to them, and especially as things go wrong, instead of waiting at a desk, you can do everything you need to on your mobile app. Paying attention to airport amenities, and utilizing the assets that they can encourage you to get pre-check and global entry, and do all those things to make a convenient flying easier and more convenient. And then pay attention to airport travel tips, and any alerts that may come about from construction to weather delays, and just be flexible in your travel plans is the biggest thing.
Well, Mark, I want to thank you. Safe travels, safe flights. Thanks for coming to Madison. Thanks for coming to your wife and for coming back. We're certainly
Yeah.
glad you're here. Thanks for coaching hockey.
Yeah.
Look forward to having you on the broadcast again in the near future. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Certainly want to thank our presenting sponsor, Perkins Coie, for supporting the program and this great conversation. I hope everyone has a great holiday season and new year, and we will see you all next year on Lunch Update.
Thank you.